lead and also Suba South Member of Parliament, is still with us. Let's bring up questions that you sent in.
My name is Okelo Gembannington and I'm from Gemiala. And I have a question for Honorable John Mbadi. And I want to ask him on the strategy that they, as parliamentarians, are using to ensure that the government interventions in the COVID-19 pandemic are consonant with human rights and gender equality. Thank you.
Honorable Mbadi.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think what needs to be understood is that Parliament is not coming up with strategies. The strategies that we have is coming from the executive. Our role as a Parliament is to interrogate, evaluate, and assess, and come up to determine whether they make sense. Now, he is asking how this is respecting the human rights and gender equality. Maybe this is informed by what happened on the day of enforcement of curfew, and probably a few things that I saw today. First, it would be responsible for me to praise the security officers who were enforcing the curfew. And Kenyans have talked about it, including the president, who has publicly apologized on behalf of Kenyans. And I expect or hope that, as promised, the action will be taken. And well, Parliament can enforce the same through the departmental committee and through the plenary. But also, something that I will not run away from and tell Kenyans candidly, Trevor, is that there would be no human rights if there is no humanity. If we are all dead, there will be no human rights to fight for. And I would tell you, Kenyans are sometimes too stubborn, even where their lives are concerned. If probably some of the excesses that we saw did not take place, you would still see Kenyans in the streets of Nairobi, even past 7. Look at how the Ministry of Health, how the government has been asking Kenyans to keep distance and to avoid coming together in a kind of a party or grouping ourselves together. You still see Kenyans going to bars and hiding and locking themselves in as if they don't care about their lives. You still even see a member of parliament still being part of the same. You see a judge or a magistrate doing such kind of what I would call misbehavior. Okay. So as we talk about human rights, let us not lie to Kenyans. This is about our lives. This is about us. It can wipe the entire population. And therefore, there would be no those human rights that we are talking about. I'm not saying it is wrong to defend and protect human rights. But where the people want to use human rights to misbehave and wipe out humanity, I would say I would choose humanity over human rights.
Honorable Mbadi, Henry Maina here is ask Honorable Mbadi what he is doing as an individual MP, and number 2, what does he plan to have the opposition MPs who he leads do on the issue of COVID-19?
What I'm doing is exactly what you will see me do in Parliament tomorrow. I was elected as a member of Parliament to make sure that we resolve issues that are of concern to Kenyans. But if he's asking what I am doing in the constituency, that is for the people of Soba. And of course, there are some more mobilization I'm taking, I'm doing right away, that I'm trying to look for how to help the people of Soba. As we speak, there is no food in Soba. The people are facing famine. So besides the health crisis, we are likely to have hunger crisis. So I'm going to work very hard to ensure that those who cannot afford food, at least those who cannot afford food, can get food. About opposition, the MPs from the NASA side, definitely we are mobilizing them to come to Parliament, and already we are discussing the various tax laws, the various strategies that the government is proposing so that Kenyans can be cushioned from this crisis.
What will be your position on rent? Most Kenyans are wondering what can be done on house rent to be reduced by maybe even 30%. How could this be achieved?
On rent, Trevor, have already made a suggestion. When we met as the Budget and Appropriations Committee, I made a suggestion. You know, we are talking of landlords should reduce rent. What we haven't asked ourselves is, first, landlords are private business people. In Kenya, we don't have, the state is not providing accommodation to its citizens. So you are discussing an issue of rent with private business people. The best way to approach it is, one, yes, talk to them, but enter into some agreement. In my view, I can see we have come up with the reduction of corporation tax from 30 to 25%. My view was, even though that is to protect business, but I think we should have used the reduction of corporation tax even to 20% in a targeted manner, not in a blanket manner that any business has to be, the profit is to be taxed at 25%. Because you see, a profit, if you have made a profit, you can pay tax. My position was, why don't we target various mortgage providers, the various banks which provide mortgage, negotiate with them that those mortgages for commercial property owners, those who have taken mortgage to build houses to rent out, and to build houses, yes, to rent houses as offices and to rent out as for accommodation, you can agree with them to reduce the corporation tax so that they also don't charge interest on their loans for a period. And during that period, you discuss again with those tenants to reduce rent. It must be an intervention that is structured, that is formal, but you cannot just make a public pronouncement and expect private business people to reduce rent. And you can also not order them to cut rent when they also are faced with huge and high payments of interest rates.
Okay, let's bring up another question for Honorable Mbadi.
What I would like to say is that the parliamentarians, once they meet, they should be able to come up with rules and regulations or laws on how to maintain the Kenyan's economy, because as we know, people are suffering. They don't have money, don't have source of income, and jobs have been shut, companies have been shut down.
Are they planning to lower the price of the commodity which are commonly used by the Kenyans, or their plan is just to give donation, which some Kenyans are not getting? Thank you.
Honorable Mbadi.
I cannot agree more with that caller, because one, I think first, let me answer him. We are going to debate the regulations governing the COVID-19 funding. You cannot set a fund in this country unless approved by Parliament. And therefore, one of the things that we are going to discuss starting tomorrow is the COVID-19 fund regulations. But something that he has brought up, which I agree to completely, is that we need to look for ways and strategies of, one, making the basic commodities cheap or cheaper for Kenyans, as opposed to being philanthropic, because philanthropy has a limit. You cannot be philanthropic every day. And that philanthropy, even the strategy of making sure that you give the right people, the people who really need the assistance, is also not guaranteed, because I have seen cases where chiefs and assistant chiefs in the villages just put down the names of their friends, even who have more capacity than the others that they leave. So what can help Kenyans is looking for ways and strategies of making sure that the basic commodities that we need at this time is cheaper. And that can be done. One strategy has been put in place, that is the VAT, which has been reduced from 16, or the proposed reduction from 16 to 14. It takes effect because the law allows the minister about 21 days. But Parliament will ratify it. So we will, as a Parliament, discuss various measures that, if we put in place, will cushion these vulnerable Kenyans. But finally, he also talked about going forward, how do we protect the economy? There are many proposals. In fact, we have to protect even our shilling as a matter of urgency, because you see, if we don't protect the shilling, then in terms of if we cannot allow the shilling to depreciate further, and it is going to depreciate because of two things. Number one, the foreign exchange earning is low because we are not exporting, and number two, the transfers from the diaspora is almost nil as we speak. we have to intervene, and we need the help of IMF to make sure that still the Kenya shilling is stabilized. So we have to look for ways of managing our economy. But it should also be understood, Trevor, that this COVID-19 is affecting, is a global crisis. There is going to be a global recession, whether we like it or not. The economy, the global economy was projected to grow this year by 2.5% to 3.3%. It is not going to grow at 2.5%. It's going to grow at much lower, if at all it is going to grow.
Yeah.
And any growth rate that is below 2.5% is considered recession. And Africa is going to be hit even harder. Because look, Nigeria is going to grow at not more than 2%. South Africa is at maximum of 2.6%. Kenya is projected to grow at about 2.8%.
Yeah.
We are in a crisis, we must admit it, and we must look for a way of coming out of it, and it cannot be a Kenyan affair.
All right.
We must deal with this matter as a global, it's a global pandemic and a global crisis.
All right, Honorable Mbadi, we have two last quick questions for you. Let's bring them up.
My name is Nixon Dugere from Kindaruma.
Thank you.
How is our food basket in Kenya, just in case of a total lockdown, not forgetting that locusts are still munching on our crops? Thank you.
Hello, Trevor. My name is Mbadi and I'm from Kilifi. My question to Honorable Mbadi is this. How is Parliament going to handle this issue of masks? Remember that many Kenyans cannot afford this mask. And also, how are they going to deal with the issue of quality of mask?
Honorable Mbadi, very briefly.
Thank you. Those are two very good questions. Number one, on the issue of the food, I think let me talk about food generally. That I expect the Committee of Agriculture to do a very quick report to us when we resume from tomorrow on the food availability in this country. We have heard the government talk about importation of about 4 million bags. We want to know how much food we have in this country, and we want to know how much we are going to import, who is going to import it, and at what cost. We must know other basic, essential commodities, like even the milk, like sugar. How are we going to handle issues of bread? And these are matters that we must address as a matter of priority. And Parliament will address that in its role as an oversighting institution. And I would guarantee you that that is one of the things that we are going to get clear reports, not theories, but practical and documented statistics on what we have. Because we cannot afford we cannot handle both health crisis and food crisis, Trevor. It is not a situation we would want to be in. Now, the other question,
very briefly,
which the gentleman from Kilifi has asked, can you remind me again?
It was about the masks. He was asking about what MP is going to do about the masks. Of masks and the availability.
Yeah, I think generally, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. The Health Committee of Parliament has been on this matter, not just the mask, but the entire PPE. Because you see, mask is just one component of the PPE, the personal protective equipment. There is the issue of masks, there are the issues of the gloves, there are issues of the ventilators. I'm told we have about 500 ventilators in the country. What we expect the committee to report to us, and which we will handle, is how many ventilators do we have? What is the projection? Because remember, we have been told that by the end of this month, if we did nothing about this crisis or this pandemic, we would have about 10,000 people, 10,000 Kenyans infected. Out of that 10,000, how many are projected to possibly could be in serious health crisis, which would require maybe the use of ventilators? Because not all who would be infected would require to go to intensive care unit and require ventilators. So we want to get to know, in terms of statistics, how much, even in terms of oversighting, the 140 million that has so far we have been told has been spent. That is the work of Parliament. We will make sure that that is done, and that is done for the benefit of Kenyans. Now, Trevor, I don't know whether you are done, so that I can finish, I can conclude.
Yes, conclude very briefly.
Something I wanted to say.
Yes.
Yeah, very briefly, I wanted to say that those who are blaming parliamentarians for adjourning prematurely, I don't think we are remembering where we were on around 17th and where we are still even today. as much as possible, we need to reduce distance between ourselves. Whether you are a member of parliament or you are any other person, or we are all Kenyans. And by the way, let me tell you, one thing that we need to understand or appreciate is that whether you hate members of parliament or not, the truth of the matter is that members of parliament interact with so many people, and people like going where members of parliament are.
Okay.
Imagine like all politicians are. Trevor, Kenyans will talk generally, they hate us, they hate politicians, but mention the name of a politician in an area, you will see the kind of songamano at that place. Let me just give you a quick example. Now, my party leader just the other day donated, and through the sub-county commissioner, he did the right thing and gave a lot of foodstuff and other things to the commissioner to distribute. Just by hearing that there is food donated by Raila Odinga, the whole of Kibera almost came to a standstill, and you saw the danger that the people were exposed to. I'm assuming that there was just rumors that Raila was in Kibera.
Okay.
How would you have managed the kind of traffic that would have gone there? So that just tells you that politicians should, as much as possible, also limit their public engagement with people. And going to parliament is equally public engagement, because once people know that MPs are in parliament, they will come to parliament. But I want to guarantee Kenyans again, tomorrow we'll be at work. And under the circumstances, we will do what we can to make sure that we deliver on our mandate.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for making time for us, Honorable John Mbadi, Minority Leader and Suba South Member of Parliament as well. Let's take a quick break here on the Monday Report. We have a few more stories to run by you and then call it a night, all right?